Hello everyone, and welcome. We're excited to have you here. This channel is dedicated to helping you improve your English in a simple, enjoyable, and inspiring way. Whether you're a beginner or an advanced learner, you'll find stories, conversations, vocabulary, pronunciation tips, and motivational content designed to help you grow your English skills every day. On this channel, you will enjoy engaging English stories, real-life conversations, useful vocabulary and expressions, listening practice, motivation to keep learning. Sofia was only 10 years old, but her heart carried dreams bigger than the town where she lived. Every morning, she woke up to the gentle smile of her mother, a woman who worked tirelessly despite the hardships of life. Though they had little money, their small home was filled with love, hope, and countless sacrifices. But one cold winter changed everything. The town of Millhaven was the kind of place the world forgot. It sat at the edge of a valley where winter arrived early and stayed too long. The houses were small, the streets were cracked, and the wind that swept through every November had a way of cutting right through your coat, right through your skin, right into the quiet sadness people carried but never talked about. But if you walked down Birch Lane, past the broken fence and the oak tree with the hollow trunk, you would find a small yellow house. And inside that yellow house lived the two most important people in this story. Sofia was 10 years old. She had dark brown eyes that were too serious for her age, a gap between her front teeth that made her smile look like sunshine breaking through clouds, and hair that her mother braided every morning before school. Two careful plaits tied with whatever ribbon they had. She was small for her age, but she carried herself like someone who had already decided that the world would not defeat her. She didn't know yet how hard that decision would be to keep. Her mother's name was Elena. Elena was 32 years old. Though she looked older, not because she was ugly, because she was not. She had Sofia's same dark eyes, the same stubborn chin, and hands that were rough from work and warm from love. She worked at the laundry on Main Street from -1 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon, then walked 3 blocks to the diner where she waitressed until 9 at night, 7 days a week, every week. She had been doing this for years, ever since Sofia's father left, quietly, without warning, without even a note, and Elena had looked at her 6-year-old daughter, swallowed whatever was breaking inside her, and said, "We're going to be okay. I promise." She meant it. That was the thing about Elena. Every promise she made, she meant with her whole body. On a Tuesday in early November, Sofia sat at the kitchen table doing her homework. The radiator ticked in the corner. The smell of the soup Elena had left simmering on the stove, potato and carrot, and just a little bit of pepper, filled the whole house with warmth that cost nothing. Sofia liked that smell. It meant her mother had been home. It meant she wasn't alone. She was working on a science worksheet, the human body, the circulatory system, when she heard the front door open and her mother step inside. "Mama," Sofia called, without looking up. "Did you know the heart pumps 100,000 times every day?" There was a pause, a longer pause than usual. "Sofia, moi любовь, my love." Elena still used the old language sometimes, when words in English felt too small. "That is a lot of pumping." Sofia looked up then. Her mother was standing in the hallway, still in her coat, one hand pressed flat against the wall. Her face was the color of paper. "Mama, are you okay?" Elena smiled, quickly, immediately, like a reflex. "I'm fine, just tired. Long day." She straightened up, unwrapped her scarf, hung her coat on the hook. Her movements were careful, measured, like someone trying very hard to look normal. "You look pale," Sofia said. "I look like a woman who has been on her feet for 15 hours. Elena came into the kitchen and kissed the top of Sofia's head. Her lips were cold. "Let me see your worksheet." Sofia watched her mother for another moment, then let it go. She was 10. She did not yet have the language for what she had just seen. She only knew something felt different, and she didn't know what to do with that feeling, so she tucked it away somewhere behind her ribs and went back to her worksheet. The heart pumps 100,000 times a day, she had written. She underlined it twice. Winter came fast that year. By the end of November, snow lay thick on the rooftops and the oak tree's hollow trunk was full of ice. Sofia walked to school in boots that were one size too small, wearing the heavy coat Elena had bought at the church sale in October. It was green and a little too big, but it was warm, and whenever Sofia wore it, Elena looked at her with an expression Sofia couldn't quite name, something between pride and sorrow and fierce, furious love. At school, Sofia was the girl who answered all the questions. Not to show off, she genuinely could not stop herself. When Mrs. Alvarez asked about photosynthesis, Sofia's hand went up. When Mr. Brannan asked who could name the 4 chambers of the heart, Sofia's hand went up. She was going to be a doctor. She had decided this when she was 7, lying in the back seat of a neighbor's car on the way home from the hospital where Elena had her appendix out. She had watched the nurses and thought, "That is what I want to do. I want to be the person who fixes people." She had told Elena this, and Elena had cried, not from sadness, but from the kind of happiness that's so big it needs to leak out somehow. "You will be the best doctor in the world," Elena had said. "The very best. I'll fix you first," Sofia had said. "Every time you're sick, I'll fix you." Elena had pulled her daughter close and laughed, and the laugh had sounded like music, and Sofia had pressed her face into her mother's neck and thought she was the luckiest girl alive. It was the first week of December when Sofia noticed the pills. She was looking for tape in the bathroom cabinet. She needed to wrap a school project, and behind the aspirin and the cold medicine and the old tube of hand cream, she found a small orange bottle. The label had her mother's name on it. The name of the medication was long and unfamiliar. The word chronic appeared in the printed instructions tucked inside. Sofia stood in the bathroom for a long time. She didn't know what chronic meant. Not exactly. But she knew it wasn't a word for something small. She put the bottle back exactly where she found it, closed the cabinet, and went back to her project. She taped the edges of her poster board carefully. Precisely the way she did everything. She did not say a word to her mother. But that night, after Elena had tucked her in and turned off the light and gone to do the dishes, Sofia could hear the water running. She lay in the dark and thought about the word chronic. The next day at school, during lunch, she typed it into the library computer. Chronic. Persisting for a long time or constantly recurring. Opposite of acute. She read it 3 times, then she searched for the name of the medication from her mother's bottle. She had memorized it, because she memorized everything. The results came back in medical language she had to work hard to understand, but she understood enough. Her mother had a heart condition, a serious one that required regular treatment, one that, without proper care, could become very dangerous. Sofia sat very still at the library computer. Around her, other kids were laughing and trading chips and complaining about homework. The librarian was pushing a cart of books between the shelves, humming something soft and aimless. And Sofia thought, she knew. She has known this whole time, and she never told me. She watched her mother differently after that. She watched the way Elena held the stair railing when she came home at night. The way she sometimes stopped in the middle of a sentence, pressing her hand to her chest, just briefly, just for a second. For a second, before continuing. The way she always sat down quickly after walking even a short distance, and called it resting my feet, and changed the subject before Sofia could ask anything. She watched, and she said nothing, and the silence between them was full of the things they were both carrying alone. One evening, 10 days before Christmas, Sofia was setting the table for dinner when she heard a sound from the kitchen that she had never heard before. A small sound, barely anything, but it stopped her cold. Her mother was crying. Not loudly, Elena would never cry loudly. It was quiet, muffled, the kind of crying you do when you are trying very hard not to. Sofia walked to the kitchen doorway and looked in. Elena was standing at the counter with her back to the door, her shoulders shaking, one hand over her mouth. On the counter in front of her was an opened envelope, a letter. Sofia could see the logo at the top. It was from the clinic, from the doctor. Sofia stepped back before her mother could turn around. She went back to the table. She placed the forks and the knives with perfect, mechanical care, one by one, and she breathed through her nose, slowly, because she had learned from her mother that you do not fall apart when someone needs you. And her mother needed her, even if Elena didn't know Sofia knew. At dinner, they talked about school. They talked about a funny thing that happened at the diner. A customer who had ordered coffee and been given hot chocolate and hadn't noticed for 20 minutes. Elena laughed, and it was a real laugh, and for just a moment she looked like herself again, and Sofia laughed too, and held on to that moment as long as she could. After dinner, Sofia said she was going to do her homework. But instead, she sat on her bed and made a list. She wrote it in her school notebook, in her neat, careful handwriting. Ways to help Mama. 1. Find out how much the medicine costs. 2. Find out what treatment she needs. 3. Find a way to get the money. She stared at the list for a long time. She was 10 years old. She had no money. She had no power. She had no idea how to fight something this big. But she had her mother's stubborn chin and her mother's refusal to give up. She had her 100,000 beats a day heart, pumping hard and certain in her chest. She picked up her pencil and wrote one more thing at the bottom of the list. 4. Do not let her do this alone. What happened next, what Sofia did, what she discovered, what it cost her, that is a story that will break your heart before it repairs it. Because just when Sofia thought she had found a way to help, she would come home from school on a cold December afternoon and find her mother on the kitchen floor, unconscious, the phone just out of reach, and nothing would ever be the same again. Moral Lesson Part 1. A mother's love is the most powerful force in the world. It will carry her past exhaustion, past pain, past the very limits of her body, just to spare her child one moment of worrying. But love must not be carried alone. The people we protect most are often the ones who most want to stand beside us in the dark. When someone you love is suffering in silence, the greatest act of courage is not to look away, it is to see them fully, to reach for them, and to say, "You are not alone in this."